My name is Arlinda Halliburton, and I am your host for today for the Professional Services and Human Capital Industry Partnership Briefings. For those of you who have joined us before, you know that these industry partnership briefings are an opportunity for you to hear from government and industry professionals about any topic that might help or facilitate you in making your experience with GSA and with your professional services multiple award schedule more successful. One of our main aims is to help you with any business development opportunities, learn how to market, and just learn in general how to go after government business. And I'm very happy to say that today we have a consummate professional who has worked both sides of government business, both mostly though in contracting and at a very high level in procurement and acquisitions. But before I introduce our speaker for today, I'd just like to remind everyone to please make sure that you are muted and know that the presentation I believe, has been uploaded for you, and you can download it in chat. And all questions, we are asking that you hold them to the end of the presentation unless our presenter requests to get, unless our presenter asks that you chime in for questions at that time in real time. Okay, so now it is with great honor that I introduce our speaker today, Mr. William Randolph. And Mr. Randolph has been was a contract specialist with the government since 1995. His accomplishments are so vast that I actually was not going to read his entire bio, but I think I would be doing a disservice not to. So after graduating from college, he was selected to be the assistant commander for contracts at the Marine Corps Systems Command in 2009. At age 39, William was selected into the Senior Executive Service as the Director of the Procurement Oversight Department of Homeland Security. In 2010, he was selected to be the Director of the Office of Acquisition Management for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE. In 2013, William accepted an assignment at the Assistant Director for Operations Support with ICE's largest operational program office. In August of 2016, William retired from the federal government with over 26 years of public service. After retirement, he joined an acquisition consulting firm as a senior consultant and facilitator. In 2019, he founded Think Acquisitions to focus on increasing the individual and team effectiveness and understanding of all participants in government contracting and acquisitions, industry and academia, government, industry, and academia. Let's see. So also, last point, William is a decorated United States Navy veteran, 1988 to 1993, and a David Packard Excellence in Acquisition Award winner. So you can see that the person who's going to be presenting to you today is someone who really knows acquisition in and out. He's going to be speaking on how to write a technical proposal, because we all know that what you put in that technical proposal can be what floats or sinks your boat. So on that note, William, would you please take it away?
All right. Thank you so very much, Ms. Halliburton. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. For the next 55 minutes or so, we're going to talk about how to write a winning technical proposal. How to write a winning technical proposal. About half of that time, we'll probably with prepared content, and then we're just going to open up for some questions and answers. So if you have a poignant question, so you can make sure you don't lose it, you can throw it in the chat. We'll grab them at the appropriate time. But it is my pleasure to be with you, and I look forward to engaging with you during the course of the next hour or so. So industry partnership briefing, how to write a winning technical proposal. Let me give you just a little bit of introduction. Okay, Ms. Halliburton mentioned a little bit of it earlier, but I want to just give you a full picture of what it all looked like, Had a pretty decent federal government career, not too shabby. When you look backwards, not too shabby. Did a little consulting around the DC metro area. That's what retired SESers do. So I did that for a while, and then had the honor of starting my own company. I found the passion, found the thing that I was very much interested in, which is training and development, and started my own company back in 2019. And thankfully, I have an opportunity to be with you today. Okay, so we're going to be talking a little bit, I'm going to be leveraging these experiences to talk to you a little bit about writing a winning technical proposal. Okay. I wanted to share with you also in that bio, in that list of activities, these are all of the roles that I have had, I have held, I have executed on when it comes to proposal engagement. Everything from an instructor, and that's what I do today, a creator, I had my years of creating proposals, creating RFPs, contributors to RFPs, evaluators of proposals, adjudicators of proposals, being the decision maker as the source selection official as a result of proposals, having to go to court to defend our actions as a result of awards based on proposals, reviewing packages that were going to court, okay? Also being a responder, now I live on the government contracting side, being a responder to RFPs, writing proposals, having had the role of unsuccessful offerer, okay, but then also having the role of successful offerer or awardee. So these are the multiple facets that I have had an opportunity to look at proposal writing and technical evaluation from. And those roles inform one point for me. First, we must change our narrative. We must shift from a focus on winning proposals, okay? I understand what we're trying to accomplish, but the focus needs to shift a little bit. We need to shift from attempting to write winning proposals. We'll shift to competitive proposals. It's a nuance. There's a nuance. Shifting from winning proposals to writing competitive proposals. Please know there is a secret formula, I believe, for writing and having competitive proposals. Proposal competitiveness, there's a secret. Just like the recipe for Coca-Cola or Big Mac sauce, there's a secret. There's a secret, and keep it locked away. I'm going to share a little bit of that with you today, based from my almost now 30 years of varying degrees of experience. First, let's set the stage. Here are some of the common challenges that I have seen, witnessed, experienced, heard about, critiqued with writing or responding to requests for proposals. Time management, there's always the clock, always fighting the clock in proposal writing, technical writing. The complexity of the requirements, having a full understanding of the various facets and layers of the requirements that are at hand. Having an understanding of the known and unknown competition. What's the level of competition? Okay, I've seen many times government contractors, my colleagues now, not have a full understanding of the competitive landscape. Having a full understanding of the competitive landscape, and therefore not necessarily having a solid strategy to address the competitive landscape. Technical knowledge, not just of the requirements, we talked about the complexity of the requirements, but the technical knowledge of the space. where those requirements live, okay, where those requirements live, and as a result, what are the technical attributes, the technical knowledge, the thought knowledge, the thought leadership in the space that the requirements live. I've seen that as a challenge. Actual past performance. Okay, many times I know we go into business, and we go into business wanting to do a certain vertical, certain line of business, deliver a certain amount of products. Okay, but in a technical evaluation, informed by a technical proposal, we're actually looking for real past performance, real, actual past performance. Has there been a person that has had no past performance that has won a contract? Probably, I'm sure. There's probably had someone, but that's a very niche area of the marketplace. Most of the time, the government is looking 9.5 times out of 10, the government is actually looking for relevant, the two magic words, relevant and recent past performance. It's a challenge if you don't have it. Okay? Adhering to compliance guidelines. That's a big one too. Okay? Compliance is a real thing in government. Okay? What are the framework that your compliance needs to live inside? Your technical proposal needs to live inside the compliance guidelines. So making sure you have an understanding of what those are. Effectively communicating technical information. The ability just to articulate the value proposition you're seeking to bring to the marketplace. And if it has technical attributes in it, what is your ability that's seen challenges with the ability to actually communicate the technical information? And not only communicate it to technical people, but how do you communicate it to the layman? That's a challenge. I've seen a challenge there. Balancing detail and brevity. I've also seen that. See, the government now is putting page limitations quite often in proposals. 20 page, 25 page, 10 page. It's like, hey, this is what we want. So how do you balance detail with brevity? I've seen that challenge take down a many of company from a level of competitiveness because they haven't figured out that balance. Ensuring accuracy, okay, the value, the understanding of what is actually being written and is actually, can we follow a logic and truth trail? Is it accurate? Is it accurate? So ensuring accuracy, another challenge. Next is maintaining consistency of messaging and tone. Many times, proposals are a product of multiple people writing and contributing in various aspects, sections, pages, topics within a proposal. How does one then make sure, if you have multiple participants, that the proposal actually reads as if it has a consistency of one voice, one message, one tone? Then the last, but absolutely certainly not least, is the demonstration of value. What is the secret sauce? How do you get to the secret sauce? How do you frame the secret sauce in such a fashion that the government actually knows that it's secret sauce? Okay, so demonstrating values of critical importance, and it is often a challenge with responding to RFPs. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you about what I call level 1 and level 2 insights. Okay, over the course of my career, I've been collecting them. Insights into how to write competitive technical proposals. Okay? So for today, because we are time constrained today. Today we're going to focus on the level 1s. We're going to focus on the level 2s. The level 2s, okay, they take a little more time. They are nuanced, often by line of business, supplies versus services. They have some nuances. Okay, but we're going to focus on the level 1s today. And we'll give you an opportunity, or if you're interested in if the level ones provide value, then there's a way to reach out and talk about the level twos. The framing that I will use for the level ones as compared to level twos is, think of the level ones as, yeah, we're playing checkers, okay? It's a simple game. Everybody moves the same things. These happen holistically, these insights across all categories, lines of businesses, schedules, products and services. Like most of the time, these covers all of the offerings, all of the potential offerings in all of lines of businesses. Level twos this is where we start playing chess. That there's different movements, there's different pieces, there's different strategy. There's a strategy involved. So again, we're going to talk about level one activity today, and then we're going to position for the opportunity to talk about level two. Okay. So here's a framework. We're going to talk about proposal enhancement blueprints. The proposal enhancement blueprints. We'll talk about these today. 17 points. It was 16. Just this morning, it was 16. And I had a client, working with a client this morning. I was like, oh, here's another one. So you got a bonus. There's 17 points. It's like, these are the activities that need to be thought about as you build, as you create a competitive, that's the goal, a competitive proposal. Right? There's the level ones and the level twos. I'll give you a little insights on it. There's the 17. Okay. As I mentioned to you, we're gonna stick with the level ones today. We're gonna go through each one of the level ones. I hope to unlock some value for you today. Okay, when we talk about the level ones. All right, let's dive in. Level one insights. The first one. Okay. This is the one, in my opinion, that has the greatest chance to elevate your ROI on your proposal activity. And that is to have a robust go, no go pursuit framework. What are you actually pursuing? Okay. I see a lot of government contractors, small businesses. Okay. They are pursuing, approaching everything. Okay? They think it's a numbers game, and it is a numbers game, but it has to be an informed numbers game. Okay? So having a process to be able to articulate, and again, robust, I use that word intentionally. What is it? You have a robust system that says, okay, we're going to pursue, we have the resources, we have the time and resources to pursue 10 proposals this year. What are the 10? Now, that is informed by your business development activities. That is informed by your capture activities. So if you're just waiting for things to fall out of the sky on sam.gov or on your schedules, it's like, okay, but you got to have a robust pursuit framework that helps you decide what to actually pursue, what to deploy, what may be scarce time and resources against. That's number one. Number two is you have to have a compliance system. You have to build a compliance system. Compliance is such vital importance to government contracting. You have to build a system. I've seen many try to QA, try to check in compliance. It's like, let's go build it first, and then we'll apply the compliance aspects on top of it after it's built. I'm suggesting that you build a framework that nothing comes in unless it's compliant. You build a system, you build a wall, you build a wall that allows only the things that are compliant. So you don't have to do these series of reviews to build compliance in. That it comes in compliance. That you build a framework, you check your information against the framework, then it's allowed to come into the environment. So you build a compliance system that allows you to save many of those perpetual do loops at the end when you build your compliance in from the beginning. That's number 2. Number 3, government contractors must be able to clearly identify your differentiator. We haven't gotten to what you can do, because most companies in their vertical are capable, if given the opportunity, yeah, we could get there. But if I could get there, so can 20 or 30 of my closest competitors. So what is the differentiator? What is the thing that separates you from the crowd? And not only knowing what that is, but clearly identifying that in your technical proposal and not letting the government evaluators have an opportunity to forget what is your differentiator. So clearly identifying, articulating it from the very beginning, and having that be a thread through your solution is, this is why we are different. Okay? Answer the question, what is the government not going to get if they don't select your proposal? That's your differentiator. What are they not going to get? That's the way to turn it around. It's like, oh, how do I frame my differentiator? What are they not going to get? If they don't pick my solution, here's what you're not going to get, government. As soon as you can articulate that, put that in a box in your proposal. Okay? When you can do that, now you have a differentiator. And the government can see it. You've presented it in such a fashion that they're like, oh, we're going to miss out on that. Whatever that is, whatever you put in the gold box, we're going to miss that. We don't have an opportunity to pursue that, to have that, to experience that, to get the ROI from that if we don't select them. Clearly identify your differentiator that will set you apart from your competition. And number 4, pictures, it has been said, are worth 1,000 words. But I'd argue that statement is missing one word, and that is understandable pictures. I have had years, decades, I can actually use the word decades of experience looking at technical proposals with pictures I couldn't follow. And I feel like I'm a reasonably intelligent person. Okay? So it's understandable pictures that are worth 1,000 words. Okay? Understandable pictures are what gives you the ROI, the leveraged value of understanding, is when you have pictures that have symbolism, that show journeys, that break down complex information, not increase the complexity of it. The picture should be designed to break down the degree of complexity. So understandable pictures are the ones that are worth 1,000 words. Pictures just alone, if they don't contribute to the story, take them out. This is not a decoration contest. Okay? Understandable pictures. If you have flow diagrams, helpful. I can see the journey. Journey maps, I can see the journey. Chevron charts, nice. Gantt charts, nice, I understand. Making sure that they're legible, okay? Making sure they're understandable and they contribute to the story. They contribute to telling your story. So understandable pictures are the ones that are worth 1,000 words. Number 5, focus on digestibility. Digestibility, meaning that your technical solution is presented in such a fashion that it can be easily consumed, easily consumed. I had the honor just a few weeks ago, we wrapped it up, submitted on the 3rd. I had the honor of working on a team that submitted a $1.1 billion proposal, total value of the contract, $1.1 billion. And the time most spent after designing the solution was ensuring its high degree of digestibility. That just about anybody could pick up that proposal and follow the journey. Yes, it had some highly technical aspects in it, but even absent the highly technical understanding, you could see where the building blocks were connected. Think about it as a Lego. We're building a castle out of Lego blocks. Okay? And we wanted to make sure that while the castle was beautiful, we wanted to make sure every Lego block was, we understood why that Lego block was there and what were the decisions that resulted in the selection of the Lego blocks that were chosen. Digestibility, the value of the ability to consume. Think about it as who's the customer of your proposal? Who is the customer of your proposal? That is that individual that is being assigned to read and digest and evaluate your proposal. That's your customer. So design a proposal that your customer can easily consume. Focus on digestibility of your solutions. Number 6, brand your solution. Brand your solution. Okay. In this day and age where we are competing for time and attention with a host of inputs, okay, we must be able to clearly and succinctly build a brand around our ideas, our solutions, our businesses, our strategies. What's the bumper sticker message for your solution? What's the bumper sticker message? Here's an example. I have a client right now, we're working on a learning management system. A government agency is seeking the government agent is seeking a learning management system. And we are building a proposal right now that talks about the learning management system, okay, and delivering the learning management system. What we want to do is we love to talk about the $2 million value of the learning, all the value that we're putting into the system for $2 million. Oh, this is awesome, this is great. But the branding is the $99 employee LMS. That's the math. That's when it's all said and done, the price per year is about $99. So the title of the proposal right out of the gate, the $99 a person LMS. It brands it. Now, when people talk about it, it's like, oh, it's the $99 one. Remember we read the $99 one? That's the $99 one. No, it's a $2 million. We're talking a $2 million solution. But the brand, if branded correctly, your solution, it gives you the bumper sticker version, gives you the shorthand version. So here is the $99 solution, the $99 LMS. Like, oh, that messaging can start renting space in your evaluator's head. It's like, oh, you remember the $99 one? Yeah, I just read which one are you on? Oh, I'm on the $99 one. Just imagine what that does to the psyche as they're processing, building a brand, building a story, building a persona around your technical solution. I've seen it work time and time again. What we have to remember is those technical evaluators and the entire system. We think about the system, the holistic system of the federal government buying construct, and it's got all these rules and regulations and processes. Okay, it's chock full of rules and regulations to make sure that equitable treatment occurs. Okay? But that system is operated by humans. Okay? Humans. And humans do business with, even inside of the system, they do business with people they like, they know, and they trust. And one of the ways to increase the liking, the knowing, and the trusting is to give them something to coalesce around. And it's humans, it's human nature to say, hey, what's the bumper sticker version of this? So as you think about building and delivering solutions, what is the brand? What's the bumper sticker version of your solution? Making sure people have that, it's at their disposal so they can be using it and starting to talk about it. You'd be surprised how brands can influence a system that's full of regulations, processes, and best practices. Brand your solutions. Okay, here is number 7. This is a tactic. 10% less, not 10% more. Okay. One of the strategies that we teach is that when teams are putting their proposals together, often when there is a page limitation, we divide it up. This is how I've seen it more times than not, more likely than not. We've got a page limitation. We got 10 things we need to talk about. We got a 20-page proposal. We have 10 things we need to talk about. Everybody writes 2.5 pages. Okay, you're responsible, everybody. So if we put that together, by the time we do the math, 2.5 pages, okay, times 10 people, we got 30 pages. And then we can cut out the things we don't need. That's the typical model. I'm suggesting, because everybody is adding a little bit more. They write what they need plus a little bit more. Okay. And then the activity, we spend our energy cutting out what we don't need. Okay. I'll pose to you to flip that everybody writes a little bit less, not 10% more than what's needed, but about 10% less than what's needed. Here's how that sets up the opportunity to actually input true meat and potatoes and move true value into your proposal. When you're short, because you've designed it to be short, when you're 18 pages and you have 20, now you can read the proposal and say, where do we need to interject additional value? The review is designed, we've changed the direction of the energy. Instead of taking our time and energy to look at things that are superfluous, like that can be extracted, we can sacrifice those. We take that same energy, same folks, doing the same time and effort, but now we're looking at it and says, where can we add just a little more value? We got 2 pages more value of goodness we need to put into the system. Just a little bit more value. So you take the same time. It's easier to cut. I get it. Been there, done it. It's easier to cut than it is to add. But the energy that you're using to cut, you're actually using that energy to take out things you don't need. Imagine using that same energy to put in things that could elevate your proposal. So when you're breaking it out, when you're thinking about it, think 10% less. When you make your assignments, it's like, yeah, okay, you got 2 pages, everybody gets a page and a half, or page and 3/4. So then when we put it together, we're about 2 pages short. Now let's read it. Now let's take the review energy and say, where can we elevate? Let's look for elevation points. Let's take that time, that energy, finite resources, finite time. Let's take those finite resources and deploy them against elevating the proposal. One could think is like, by taking out the unneeded, okay, that you're elevating the proposal. Yeah, on some level you are, but imagine if you're actually putting in value. not value by subtraction. It's like addition by addition. Okay, that's the model. How do you set yourself up to require addition by addition, not addition by subtraction? This is a critical point that you can elevate your compliance will result in you elevating your proposal simply by the demand for your page count saying we need to add more value. We need to add more goodness. We need to explain this a little bit better. We need to add some graphics that enhance instead of saying, oh, we don't need that. Oh, we don't need that. Oh, we don't need that. Well, then the basic value of your proposal hasn't moved. You've taken information out, but the basic value hasn't moved. Imagine if you're at the basic value, it says, we need to add some more. We need to add some more. We need to add some more just to make the page count. So these folks are level one activity. All of the level one activities are truly designed to, one, demonstrate your capability. What is your distinct value proposition? The differentiator from you, from all of your close friends and competitors. How that is done is that you have to communicate it. You have to communicate it. The federal government and the federal government acquisition process and the technical evaluators are actually prohibited from bringing outside information to the evaluation party. No outside guests. They are reminded, they are trained, advised, and reminded to read what's on the paper. Read what's on the paper. Therefore, it is of critical importance that we, you are my people now, we learn how to effectively communicate our strategies, to differentiate ourselves, to choose the things that we even pursue. We can increase our P-win sizes simply by not pursuing things that we don't have a competitive advantage for. Because there's somebody out there that actually has a competitive advantage. And I believe you want to compete competitive advantage against no competitive advantage as compared to competitive advantage. So if you don't have that thing that sets you apart, you can bring or unlock extraordinary value, then deploy those resources, those times and resources against the ones where you do, and your percentage of winning increases instantaneously by simply not pursuing the things where it's just nice to throw something in the hopper. Okay. All right, we're at about 20 minutes to go. So I want to open it up. I'd love to open it up for questions, comments, thoughts, observations. Anyone in the chat? Any questions in the chat? Anything? This is your time. Anything about the level ones that you want to talk about or like for me to embellish? Let's talk about it. Questions and answers. Okay, I see something in the Q&A. The chat is disabled. Okay, so let's put the Q&A. Any questions or comments or thoughts or observations? Just throw them in the chat. In the Q&A. If the chat is disabled. Okay, let's see. I've got one. Thank you, Ed. Got a question. We attempt to be prepared. A few weeks after responding to market research requests, we will attempt to follow up to determine if the government has made any acquisition decisions, such as contract vehicle, set aside, potential solicitation, task order release, due to dates, etc. Unfortunately, it seems increasingly difficult to locate appropriate POC. The GSA market research folks quickly send out POC names that are incorrect and or cannot be contacted. If you do contact someone, they frequently say they aren't allowed to speak to an offerer. How can we get around these difficulties. Well, Ed, I tell you, I'm sad to say that I hear this way more often than I care to. I don't have any experiences with the GSA market specific personally. I am not a GSA holder personally. However, in our teaching, and we actually teach new contracting officers to teach new contracting specialists. One of my contracts is to teach the next generation of contracting professionals. And we actually teach them to the strategy we call fill the black hole. Here's the black hole. After the government sends a request for information and companies respond, the black hole ensues, meaning more likely than not, and significantly more likely than not, there isn't a response back to industry to say, oh, thank you, we learned something. Now, when I share this information with government, I always tell them why it's important to share. Okay, and I ask them to share two things. One, share the list of the folks that responded to the market research. Okay, great opportunity for folks that may be, well, I can only do 60%, I can only do 30%, or I can do 40%, I can only do 50%. Those folks get together and together they can bring some extraordinary solutions to the marketplace, to government. So share the market research participants list. That's the first thing I always share. And the second thing I always share is why it's important to share the information or to fill the black hole is because industry is off and running. You all know this. Industry is off and running based on any information they get. So if the RFI shares a rough strategy of what they think the government is going to do, industry is off and running, preparing, leaning into that activity. But if the government learns something during the market research and is pivoting away from what the original thing is, industry is off and running based on the best information they have, which was the RFI, initial RFI ask. And the government now has changed their mind behind the scenes and says, oh, we have, and when that shows up as a draft RFP, or in some instances, a final RFP, it's like, oh, it's a pivot in there from where it started. So the best thing I can share with you, Ed, is keep trying to communicate. There is a fine line between persistence and pest. Okay, fine line. There's a fine line between persistence and pest. So you have to be careful about where do you debark from being persistent and then being a pest. But I would say the best thing I can do for this one is to communicate to the powers that be that it would be very helpful to have those two pieces of information, who responded, so there's opportunities for teaming and subcontracting. And then second, what did you learn, government, so that when government, because there's not enough time to respond when it's finally time to respond. So industry is leaning in. So the more we can know sooner that maybe there were some pivots, some actual learning occurred, imagine that, some actual learning occurred during the RFI market research phase, that we can have that information as we're leaning forward. We can be leaning forward actually in the direction of the federal government is seeking to go. So long answer, but this is one of my pet peeves. I wholeheartedly agree with this one.
Excuse me, William. Yes. I just wanted to. I noticed that John weighed in and answered provided an answer. And I wondered if he might be willing to share what he typed because we can't see it. And also to say to Ed, I hear you, I feel you. One of the things that we are working on is trying to be more responsive for RFIs because we understand the small businesses. It's a major time commitment for you, and that minimally you should be given the information as to if any decisions have been made. So that is something that we're working on. But John, would you like to weigh in on that?
No, I just was going to mention that I wanted to reach out directly to Ed and talk about his experience and figure out if we can see where the gap is in that, because that's a growing area that we're always trying to get feedback on and make sure that we don't have a black hole. So it was just something that I think I want to take offline and give some more feedback and information on. So.
Okay, yeah, thank you, because yes, as I said, we do recognize this is sometimes or often an issue, and we are internally trying to improve that. So sorry, William, for cutting in, but I just wanted to see if we could get a direct answer from someone within GSA. Okay, let's continue. John Coover.
Okay, so John says, what makes a compelling technical solution? I think there are three attributes to a compelling technical solution. One, that it satisfies the requirement. Okay, number one. Two, that it is digestible, okay, that they can understand it. And three, that there's always what I call the prize in the cereal box. Okay, now I'm telling my age a little bit, but I remember when I was young, cereal was just cereal. But the differentiators between which cereal you chose or which cereal I asked my mom to buy for me was during my generation, there were actually prizes in the cereal box. It's like, oh, there was a card, baseball card, or a Hot Wheels car or something. So we would always look up the cereals actually didn't matter. The cereals were delivery mechanisms for the prizes inside the boxes. So what makes a compelling technical solution is one that answers the mail, one that we can understand, that isn't too Star Trekky, that it gets past our current level of understanding, or a day or two past our current level of understanding, unless we're asking for that. Unless we're asking for solutions for a day after tomorrow, then go all the way Star Trek. Okay, but if we're not asking for solutions day after tomorrow, then making sure that they're digestible, and then always have a surprise have a value proposition, a surprise in the cereal box. It's like, oh, you weren't expecting that. So you design a technical solution that always has a prize in the cereal box. That's how I would make a compelling technical solution. It answers the mail, it's digestible, and have a surprise in the cereal box. Zachary says, how does your process work for highest rated technical offer proposals? I think it actually enhances or contributes to their success, okay? Because you make it easier for the evaluator to determine highly rated, okay? That you make the cut. In the highly rated offers, the goal is to make the first cut. So one of the strategies I've often advised clients to use is put stuff in I call it the gold box. Okay, where's your goal? What are the messaging in your gold box? If you're going to talk about if you got a section of your proposal, your technical proposal, what are the three things you want them to remember out of that section? Put it in a gold box at the end. Gold box, highlights. Okay, highlight, read, put all the story in there, but at the end, don't give your evaluators an opportunity not to get the goodness out of it. And one of the ways to do that is to just put it right up front, okay, at the end, okay? And I said right up front, that was a Freudian slip, but that's not a bad strategy either. I'm sure you've heard people say in public speaking, the value of public speaking is what happens is, a value framework for effective public speaking is you say what you're going to say, you say it, and then you tell people what you just said, okay? That could apply. That could have a reasonable chance of being successful in technical evaluations. Here's what we're going to tell you. This is why our thing is the greatest thing since the tricycle. Describe the thing that's the greatest thing since the tricycle. And then we told you, here's the takeaways. It's the greatest thing since the tricycle. Okay. Instead of adding fluff, imagine if you were framing your solutions in a manner that it was like, oh, it's easy. There is no ambiguity of the value proposition of this proposal. Okay, so I think that's a strategy. What is the strategy for mitigating lack of past performance, whether scope, size, complexity, or a combination of the three? Probably two strategies. One is effective partner. An effective partner. That's probably number one, is go find it. And then mitigating past performance. The second thing that I would do is like, okay, you don't have the past performance in this, but get the next best thing. Okay, what's the next best thing? If it's not quite the same, okay. If it's not quite the same, what's the next best thing? And then articulate the value. So it's a plus, next best thing plus. Articulate the value proposition of the next best thing and how you can deliver on the plus. Okay, so let's see if I can find an example. Okay, we don't have a Maserati. Government asked for a Maserati. But we do have this Toyota, and here are the things we're going to add to the Toyota. It's like, and here's the value proposition of our Toyota. It's an amazing Toyota, and we're going to do these things to add to the value of it. So it's not quite a Maserati. So we acknowledge the point. It's not a Maserati, but we give the best Toyota we can, and then we talk about the things that can at least balance, try to get to balancing the scales. So next best thing plus as a strategy. Neil says, contract officers are very hesitant to meet with industry. While government says they want industry discussion, KOs have been told if they say anything wrong, they are in trouble. So they choose not to say anything or meet none. Sadly, I have heard of that. I've seen that. I have witnessed that. So colleagues, here's the thing I would share with you is to talk when there's nothing on the street. That's the best time to talk, is to build your relationships, build your connections, talk about programs, talk about offerings, try to make those connections when there's nothing on the street. It's absolutely shields up when something's on the street, unfortunately, because there's plenty of shields down time in that journey. Plenty of shields down, or at least managed shields down. Okay, so I want to make sure that I am still 1102. I got contracting officer in my blood, so I will still want to honor the fact that there are times when communications are higher risk than others, so they had to be managed. But there are plenty of lower risk activity, even during when something's on the street. But what I have learned over time is talk to me when I don't have a requirement on the street, and then we just having a conversation. Then there's nothing at risk. Work the risk. You have to understand your partner industry. Your partner works on things. They get measured. My colleagues, my former colleagues, they get measured by what gets accomplished, not what gets started, not what gets tried, but what gets accomplished. So anything that has the potential of standing in the way of what gets accomplished has a degree of risk to it. So if you have that level of understanding, it's like, okay, I understand this. I understand their position. Then you build a communication strategy, you build an engagement strategy, you build a business development strategy that understands their environment. That's how I would frame it. What are your thoughts on proposed FAR changes affecting suitability and how might it affect competition? My thoughts on suitability are the government has, I fall in the camp of government on this one. Okay. The government has requirements, and those requirements have environments that those requirements must live in. And those requirements and those environments that they must live in must be performed by contractors that have risk reduction attributes. The system must be risk reducing. Okay? That's the world. Like 26 years on the other side. The world must be risk reducing. Therefore, we must do the things that are necessary to reduce risk in order for the government to be able to execute in the fashion above reproach, be a good steward of taxpayer dollars. Okay. and stay out of the newspaper and off 60 Minutes. So we do the things. We do the things. How do you get past performance when you are really small? Often I have resources who have experience, but not just with my company, or have experiences with ICA, so I cannot use as a past performance. What can I do to get that company past performance? So Kimberly, I've done a couple of things. When I first started my company, I used my past performance as a government employee. Okay. But I said it. I was like, hey, these are resources from, this is my experiences from, the experiences are experiences. Now, it's one thing not to have experiences. That's different. But if you have experiences, you just need to frame them in such a fashion that they can be digested by the government. So when I started, my experience, I had no past performance. So my past performance was based on my government experiences. Then I hired some people that had government experiences. One of the things you'll notice is that there is no size limitation, okay, I shouldn't say no size. Many times, people don't ask about the size of your past performance within reason. Now, please don't, you can't pursue $1 million contract and only done P-card transactions. Okay, so they're not saying, but close, recent and relevant. Recent and relevant. That's the test. It didn't say recent, relevant, and same dollar amount. So you can find them small. You can participants, your own team members, okay? And then go after small deals. The goal is to pad your past performance up. The past performance is anywhere you've done the past performance. It doesn't necessarily have to be a certain flavor or style. So take the journey. It's okay. Let me see where we're going on our time. Oh, lots of questions, but new to technical writing. How do I start, and what would be the biggest pitfall aside from mentioning your presentation to avoid? I think the biggest pitfall is not answering the mail. Being a federal government contractor, responding to requirements is not answering the mail. Okay. I see we have other questions here. I want to make sure we get to them all. So I want to do one thing, because some people may be time constrained. Let me just give you my last information, and then we'll get back to it. And then I'll stay on as long as the folks would like, GSA folks will allow me. So if you're interested in the level 2 insights, reach out. Okay. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, or there's my email address and telephone number. Okay. I'd love to, if there's an opportunity, if you'd be interested in hearing the others, we can set up I do this through Lunch and Learn, so we can set up a Lunch and Learn, and we can go through the others. We can revisit the first 7, and then we can tackle the others. So just want to let you know that there's an opportunity for you to get them if you're interested. And then we'll get back to Arlinda, you just let me know when time is up. I'm gonna keep punching through them until you tell me time, and then I can come back and send the responses. I can write some responses up and get them back to your community if you'd like.
Okay, so generally what we do here is we only have 1 more minute, but
Okay.
in the past we have allowed the presenter to continue with answering questions over the time limit. I think that's the same today. If that's an issue with anyone, with either of you, of my tech folks, please let me know. But otherwise, please continue. And I'd say we could probably keep it open for about another 15 minutes.
Okay, so, sounds good. I'll go. Okay. I'll try to go fast.
Okay.
Awesome. Let's see. Anonymous attendant federal register minimizing risk climate change for register. Okay, I think just one of your colleagues just giving you some information here. So great, thank you. Can you tell us more about the evaluation party? Can you tell me how the evaluation party is run? Yes. So the government recruits, if you will, okay, subject matter experts. Okay. They are often individuals that have either subject matter expertise, mission expertise, end user expertise, and sometimes they can just be advisory in nature, that they have insights or opinions that need to be heard, and that is done through the process. So it gets that team together, and they have a responsibility through the source selection framework. It could be formal, sometimes informal or formal. But that evaluation team has a responsibility to look and digest and chew on those proposals and then come to individual positions, individual evaluation. Then they come together as a consensus. And then the consensus is the one that is the governing evaluation activity. Okay, so that evaluation party is really important. Subject matter experts, sequestered, don't touch them, let them do their thing. And they come out with based on the technical merits as compared to the requirements, not against each other, but as compared to the requirements, they come out with a holistic answer. That's what the evaluation party looks like. Okay, and then that should be carried through the organization, through the source selection infrastructure up to the individual that's making the source selection decision. And again, that's the technical side. We have price and non-price factors. The non-price factors are the technical aspects, and then someone else is looking at the cost. Those two are never the two shall meet until it's time for them to come together. So those are done separately. They tend to be done separately, and then they meet at the appropriate time so the government can decide what quality of solution they're looking for the price that they're willing to pay. That's what the evaluation party looks like. All right. How do you balance writing a technical response that meets all the base requirements, yet demonstrate ability to do more, provide capabilities to innovate and move to a future state? So Neil, that's the puzzle. That's the puzzle. Notice I didn't say prizes in the cereal box. Okay. Stick to the requirements, but have one or two things that say, oh, here's where the art of the possible is. Okay. Now, please know that the demonstrating of doing more and more capability, innovate during the market research phase, that's when that opportunity was richest, where it was most fertile for a pivot, a change, or influence the journey. It was most valuable, most opportune during the market research phase. If you've missed that, then find the one or two prizes in the cereal box, not 15, not rewrite, not the day after tomorrow solution. Answer the mail, and then one or two strategies. So that's how I would handle that. Zachary says, how do you create a compelling technical proposal when trying to get in with a new customer? For example, we have Air Force past performance and trying to get a foot door in with the Navy. Yeah, social proof is an amazing thing. Okay. So being able to articulate what that social proof is, what's the value proposition? What are you doing for the Air Force? What are they getting out of it? Okay. What are they doing? What are they doing and what do they get out of it? We don't, when we go to the grocery store, we don't change our brand of bread easy. Okay. So it's not going to be easy to do this, to influence, because someone's likely doing it already. Someone's likely doing it already. So it takes time for us to change our brand of cookie. So imagine if someone wants to change their offering or to be introducing a new participant into the environment. It takes some time and energy. But the thing that can break through is social proof. Ooh, they're doing it over there too. And then what's the value proposition? What are you getting? What's the differentiator? What's the prize in the cereal box? What are y'all doing that we're not doing over here? Now, you want to get their attention? There you go. That's one. Okay. If you got the secret sauce, then get in front of them and tell them. Get in front of them and tell them. Find a way to get in front of them. They're looking for solutions. The government, individuals who work for the government, they have problems, they have opportunities, they have needs, they got pains. And if you sell Tylenol, they're interested. But you gotta sell Tylenol. And that's one of the things that I've seen many times is that many of my industry brothers and sisters, they want to sell vitamins instead of Tylenol. Okay? When you sell vitamins, it's like, you don't really know if the vitamins work or not. It's like, they could work. You just got to trust and believe. You just take them, and in 6 months, it was like, do I feel better? Is my hair better? My eyes better? He's like, I don't know, but that's the vitamin experience. If someone wakes up with a headache, they're looking for Tylenol, and they know Tylenol works. Okay, so we've got to shift as government contractors, we got to shift from selling the promises of vitamins to selling the capability of Tylenol. Okay, so focus on the problems. Find people with problems. Those are the ones that have the easiest and the fastest sales cycles. And when they have pain. When they have pain, that's when sales occur. Okay. Best past performance, should you use your 3 biggest and best, or maybe the only cover 6 or 7 scope tasks, or the 2 biggest and best, and then include a 3rd smaller, covers down maybe just the 7th scope. Yes, cover the scope. Okay, big is, again, recent and relevant. Okay, recent and relevant, that's the test. So if you cover down all of the tasks, that's, in my opinion, in my experience, that's way more important. That's way more important than big numbers. Because all the big number says is it was a big number. It says nothing about your capability, how well it was done, okay? And whether the big number was actually a contract ceiling or was it actually work being done against it. You know, some people report their contract ceilings, and that's a far cry from the number that actually work has actually been. They want a contract ceiling, but how much work has actually been placed against it? So focus on the task. Okay. I guess I should also caveat that and say I will defer to the GSA folks. They probably have a framework. They probably know, but I would say from my experience, if I were buying, I'd much rather see past performance on the task that I have than big numbers that have approaching 0 correlation to whether the underlying tasks were done effectively or not. Bob says, i.e., are they grading each past performance by itself or collectively, all 3? I will defer. I do believe they should be holistically designed, because what's the chances of having done exactly what the government is asking for again? Unless you're the incumbent and it's being competed, what are the chances that it's a 7-to-7 task, subtask match? Okay, likely not. Even if it's the same stuff, okay? Human capital support, even if it's same stuff, it's like, what's the chances that one requirements document is an exact mirror match to another? Likely not. So I would say cover down on the requirements that are being asked for. And if there's some overlap, great, but don't leave anything uncovered. That would be my recommendation. That would be my suggestion, not to leave anything uncovered. How do we find and engage contracting officers during the quiet times? Consistency. Okay. Persistence as compared to pests. Find a line, okay, but consistent. One of the tactics that I've used during COVID or during post-pandemic, let me say it that way, is the 20-minute ask, the 20-minute Zoom. Okay, that's my go-to now. Okay, for 2 reasons. 1, 20 minutes doesn't seem like a lot of time in an 8-hour day. It's like, oh, I can squeeze 20 minutes in. It feels like it. Now you ask for an hour in an 8-hour day. It's like, oh my goodness, that's 1/8 of my day. I can't sit around and talk to people 1/8 of the day, but 20 minutes in an 8-hour day, feels much more reasonable. Okay, feels much more approachable. Closer to yes. That's number 1. And number 2, it is the rarity of an individual that calendars their calendar in 20-minute increments. So if you ask for 20, you probably got 30. Okay. That's a tactic we teach our clients, but ask for 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, be ready to be able to make the next meeting. Again, first meetings, first calls aren't designed for proposals of matrimony. Okay? No contracts will be awarded on the first calls. The first calls are designed to get the second call. Okay? So do the activity to get the first call, and then be interesting enough to warrant the second call, warrant the second connect. That they say, "Ooh, can we follow this up? We only had 20 minutes. You asked for 20 minutes, but we need to know more." That's when you know you've connected. So that's how you find them. Okay, do the work, find them. Here's another strategy for finding them. Go look on SAM. Go find work that you've done that you could do, so you can look backwards for stuff that's even closed. Go out and find the stuff that you could have done. if you believe you had a competitive advantage for, at the every bottom of every SAM, there's 2 points of contact often, at least one. You got to have one to actually get it posted. You got to have one. That's a contracting officer, okay, a contract specialist. You got to have one. That person has done, if that person has done services today, it's not like they're going to be doing services today, trucks tomorrow, laptops the next day, cybersecurity the next day, FEMA tarps the next day. Okay, if that person is doing services today, they're likely going to be doing services tomorrow, services next week, services next quarter, services next year, if they're still there. Okay, so build a relationship. That's just not how the way contracting organizations are built. That you just go to the assembly line and pick up whatever's next. No, they are framed. Okay, they are bucketized. They are groups. So a person works a group, a type of procurement. So if they're working that group or type of procurements today, or they worked them 3 months ago, go look back 3 months, see who was doing your stuff. It's a likelihood that person, if they're still there, they're still doing that type of work. Okay, go build a relationship. That's an easy way to say, oh, who's doing work in my space with nothing on the street? Notice, it's dead. It's 3 weeks ago. 3 months ago. It's already been awarded. Nothing on the street. Now I can have now I'm free. At least we're eligible of having a free conversation because there's no requirement on the street. That's how I would do it. Are you able to provide some examples of really compelling differentiators you've seen over the years for professional services companies? Yes, individual capability. I've seen that. That's a huge one. Someone that has advanced degrees, advanced capabilities, advanced experiences. Okay, I've seen that. For services, I've also seen individuals that maybe they've run their own company. They've had a small business and now they have an opportunity to bring them in, entrepreneurial activities. I've seen differentiators that people have written books or been, have been published. Differentiator, oh, this person knows what they're doing. They might know what they're doing. They have a greater chance than not to know what they're doing. It separates them from everybody else. Okay. Something as simple as having an onboarding system. It's like our onboarding system, we've knocked this thing down to a science. We can get people on in 12 days or 17 days. Okay. And have proof. It's like we have a named, branded onboarding system. Imagine if you could go to the government and say, look, we have an onboarding system. We can guarantee to get your folks on. Outside of the clearance, we can guarantee to get them through. We have a system to get them on board in less than 3 weeks, 21 days. Ooh. It's like, oh, okay. Differentiator. Okay, so I've seen it. Maybe depending on the type of service that you're hiring, you recruit from certain areas. Okay. 51,000 high-tech workers have been laid off since January. 51,000. Imagine if you had a recruitment and retention, a recruitment and hiring strategy that says we recruit from, okay, Meta, Facebook, Google, wherever. It's like this is where we hunt. Ooh, you mean we have the opportunity to get some of those folks? Ooh, competitive differentiator. So yeah, there's a host of them. Some of them are tactical, some of them are experiential, some of them could be academic, but design the one that you have. Don't go. I think it was Rumsfeld that says you go to war with the army you have, not the one you want. Okay, the one you wish for. So you go with the one that you have. So what is yours that you have? And then you frame that in such a fashion that, ooh, that's a differentiator that separates you from everybody else. All right. I think that's it, folks.
It is. That was the last question.
All right.
And I want to thank you so much for hanging in there and answering all the questions, and also for everyone who stayed. I realized most people committed to an hour, and so they had to leave at 2. And I was amiss by not giving them having your information up. So thank you very much for doing that so that they were able to get that. And also to say that, just thank you so much. I think this was a wonderful, wonderful presentation, almost bordering on a workshop. I think that folks really learned a lot. And in fact, we had lost at the end of the hour, like no one. So people stayed through the
Well, good.
entire presentation. So
Good.
that's why I know they saw the information that they were given as being valuable. And on that note, William, I want to thank you so much again. I look forward. I hope you will do another one of these with us.
I'd be honored.
One of the unique things about the webinar series is that we do engage industry. We're not just engaging government folks to teach, because we understand that there are insights that come from government that insights that come from industry that government does not have. For example, relevant to the question of RFIs, that's something we get all the time from small businesses. The amount of time it takes, they engage around preparing an RFI and then maybe not hearing back what happened. So that's on our side, that's on us. Government has to work on that and do a better job. On that note, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Please join us next month. We do these webinars every month. Hopefully we'll have William back to do another one for us. Your energy was infectious and your passion. So thank you so much. And on that note, everyone, see you next month, where we'll be discussing upskilling for the workforce from an industry perspective on human capital. All right.
Be well.
Bye. Thank you.